Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Today we have an incredible person. I'm so excited that if you don't already know him, I'm excited for you guys to get acquainted with him today. But first, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Faye Shola Akintola, and I'm the Special Initiatives Manager for Mayo Peduto. And in my role, I get to manage our Welcome in Pittsburgh initiative, right, which is our immigrants and internationals and refugees integration strategy for the mayor. And with that, we get the opportunity to meet incredible people that are widely known and some that are not. But the idea of this interviews is that you all will get to know and meet rich people that you yourselves could connect with in your role, on your day-to-day lives, right? And take advantage of the opportunities or the services that they do offer. So today you're going to be meeting Andres Franco, and there's going to be so much to ask, but because of his time and because of our time, we're going to try and keep it short, right? But again, feel free again to reach out to them and learn a little bit more about the work that they do because it is phenomenal. So first, welcome Andres Franco. It's so good to have you.
Hi, Faishola. How are you? Thank you for the invitation. I really look forward to this conversation.
Yes, likewise. And I guess just to kick it off to folks, for folks that might not know who you are and where you come from, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like, where were you born? Are you a native Pittsburgher?
I am originally from Colombia, South America, and I came to Pittsburgh about 6 years ago. I came here initially to work with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. I was the assistant conductor, then associate conductor, then resident conductor, and that's how I came to Pittsburgh. Actually, my first time in the city was for my audition back in April of 2015, but I've lived in Pittsburgh since about September of 2015. I really love the city.
Oh, that's so good to hear. So, wow. Via, I mean, currently people are going to get to find out a little bit more of what you currently do now, but you worked in the symphony. Where did your love for music or the love of arts come about?
So I come from a very musical family. My father is an ethnomusicologist, so he traveled all around Colombia with a little tape recorder, if you remember those. Well, they were not so little back then, but just recording the music of the different ethnic groups in Colombia. So there are the native Colombians, the Afro-Colombians, and then the Europeans, and then all the different, those three groups really mixed, and we have a very rich culture. So he traveled all around Colombia doing it. My uncle, his brother, my father's brother, is a composer. So they also had an academy that was like a conservatory style music school. They also taught theater, dance, and visual art. So, very artistic family. Then I moved to the United States to complete a master's in piano performance and then a master's in orchestral conducting. That was in Fort Worth, Texas. And that was almost 21 years ago. In August of 2000 is when I arrived in the United States.
Oh, wow.
And I got different jobs as a conductor, and eventually ended up with my position here with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra.
Wow, that's such a beautiful and rich background. And thank you for sharing that with us. I feel like when you were speaking, I was just like, oh, it would be nice to be in one of those events, right? When everyone is just singing and dancing. But what's interesting now is like now, and you would know better than I do. Now your work at City of Asylum, right, is a little bit different, would you say? Can you talk us through the transition, right? And why you felt like City of Asylum was a good fit. And then we'll go into what is City of Asylum and so on and so forth. But why this next move from music to literary arts kind of thing?
So when I was a conductor, and I guess I still am a conductor, I will continue conducting.
It's in
But
your blood.
when music is in my blood, so definitely I'll continue making music. But with my work as a conductor, I was always interested in the voices of the historically marginalized communities within classical music. So being from South America and from Latin America, I did program and conducted a lot of music by Latin American composers. But I was also interested in women composers who don't have as much representation in classical music, or world composer, like not just from Germany and Austria and France, which are the countries we all associate with classical music, but also trying to understand what does it mean to be a Nigerian classical composer or a Turkish classical composer or a Colombian classical composer. So I was always interested in international voices and also the voices of the marginalized. And I did program a lot of pieces that also had this connection to social justice or racial equity. I did work in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I was aware of the Tulsa massacre of 1921, 5, 6 years ago when people didn't really know about it, and I did a couple of programs that touched on that particular event. So my interest in music was wide, and it went beyond just music itself. It was in a way using music and using the art as a vehicle to address some of those issues of social justice and racial equity. And I was also very interested in bringing people together. Classical music has this kind of aura that people think that I need to look a certain way or dress a certain way or have certain friends in certain places in order to be able to enjoy it. And I didn't believe that. I believe that you just have to be a human being to go to a concert and enjoy it. And that is not only for a concert of classical music, that's for a concert of any kind of music, and for that matter, for any type of art. You don't have to be highly educated or you don't have to belong to a certain socioeconomic class to enjoy the art. You just have to be human and be open to the experience. So that is what brought me close to City of Asylum. City of Asylum is an organization that started to provide a safe home for endangered writers, for writers who were persecuted at home and had to be in exile here in the United States. And that's how it started. But then when those writers came into Pittsburgh and started performing or reading their art, their literature or their poetry, people really reacted to what they were doing. This, what you see behind me, is actually a wall. It's not background. This is a wall in my office, and it shows you what City of Asylum does. So this gentleman here is a Nobel Prize winner, Wally Soyinka, and we have over here the person with the cap is a saxophonist, Oliver Lake, and you can see also drummers around. So it's this idea of building community around literature and music and the arts in general that is central to City of Asylum. So that's what drew me to the organization, because it's not only an organization that protects creative freedom, freedom of creative expression, but it also celebrates freedom of creative expression by presenting concerts and programs and films. So when I came to Pittsburgh, I started reading all the articles I could find about the city, and one of them was an article in the New York Times, one of those 36 hours in, and that was 36 hours in Pittsburgh. And the first stop was what is called the house poem, which is the first house that City of Asylum provided for a Chinese writer, Wang Zhang, who was the first writer in residence at City of Asylum. Actually, I can show you a little bit of that, because if I move that way, so you can see this is Wang Zhang here, and you can see the house like right behind him.
Wow.
That is the house publication. So I was intrigued. As you can imagine, it's not every day that you find Chinese poems painted onto facades of houses, let alone houses in Pittsburgh's north side. So I became just really intrigued by the organization. Then eventually I moved to Pittsburgh, and I came to Alphabet City, which is our offices, headquarters, where we present all the programs, and came to a concert. There was a Jazz Poetry Month concert where they mix jazz, a lot of times avant-garde jazz, poetry in this space. There's a restaurant on one side, a bookstore on the other side, and then in the middle is the program space. And I came here with my mom, who was visiting from Colombia, and I really just fell in love with the place. I told my mom I could move here tomorrow and live in this space all my life.
Wow.
So fast forward 6 years later, I almost live here in at Alphabet City. And it was just that connection of music, literature, ideas, community, freedom of expression, and just bringing people together into this one space that drew me to City of Asylum.
And I'm curious, you said something, right, that is so powerful. And I think I've come to learn over time, like how the arts is such a powerful way to have conversations that are really difficult, right? You talked about the Tulsa massacre, again, racial inequities. That's a very tough subject to discuss, right? Ordinarily, but somehow with arts, with music, with poetry, somehow that is a way of having a conversation with people that ordinarily might be hesitant to have those conversations. Would you say, and would you say City of Asylum is a space where people can expect something like that to happen?
Yes, I think the arts versus anything, and all these conversations must happen in different circles, and they are tough conversations. They are difficult, and of course, they have to happen at the policy level. They have to happen at so many different levels. But I think the arts, in many ways, help us understand other people, and or at least understand their stories and their experiences. And we do it with, we feel differently. So you can study a problem or a subject forever and have it in your head and you understand it very clearly, but until you feel something, it's going to be very hard to move everyone in the same direction. So I think the arts provide that human connection that is beyond the understanding of a subject. Is just you go to the core. And usually when you go to a film or to a theater performance or to a music performance or to a reading, you let your guard down. You're there to experience art. Is something that moves you, and you do not come to those experiences with the same kind of predisposition to fight or to resist. You're there just to experience somebody else's story, and I think that's what makes art so powerful. Even when we were talking about the pandemic, we have a lot to do now in terms of healing, not just physically, which is very important, of course, public health. We know how important it is for sure after this year and a half we have had, but it's also just the healing inside. It's been traumatic for everyone at different levels, and the art will be one of the ways in which we can start addressing that very painful subject as well, and healing. And the same goes for racial equity and social justice. So it just allows people to have conversation more openly, and in many ways you're not pushed, not forced to taking sides. You're just experiencing a piece of art, and it's both the experiencing between the stage and the audience, but also among audience members. That is very important. So you're creating these spaces where we can share and be in many ways more vulnerable. So it's that combination of like the private and the public that makes arts programs and arts and culture programs so special.
That's awesome. You said something that you touched on COVID a little bit, and I wanted to stay on that a little. You all did an incredible job when COVID came around. I think quickly you guys pivoted, right, to still continue to provide art, a way for folks in a way to not necessarily focus on their situation and home, but still give people an outlet to be able to enjoy the arts. I mean, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about that program. I mean, the show must go online, and it's still a place for different partners to still host your shows as well through Show Must Go Online. So can you tell us a little bit about the Show Must Go Online, how that came about? And now that, I don't know to say, are we coming out of COVID? Is COVID, on another level now? But what is your plans there, right? Between doing online and also doing in-person programs as well.
So I started, more than 6 months into the pandemic, but I know the history of what happened right after the pandemic, because the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra has a partnership with City of Asylum. So I also knew the organization because of that partnership. I was in charge of being the moderator for the programs the symphony presented at City of Asylum. So when the pandemic started, one of the co-founders, Henry Rees, reached out to me. We had been working because of the symphony, and he had this idea of putting an online channel together for all local or Pittsburgh-based organizations, and he wanted to know if this is something that the symphony would be interested in participating. So I knew about this project, I don't know, maybe a week or two after everything shut down. So they reacted very quickly. Alphabet City was already provided with cameras and with sound equipment, high-speed internet, so it made it very easy for City of Asylum to just use everything they had in place, rethink strategies. the team here is wonderful. The staff is just moved very quickly, and in 6 weeks or so, they went from canceling a live in-person event to presenting the first online program as part of the show must go online, line within brackets. And that was a platform that was offered not only for programs that City of Asylum curated, but also it was offered to basically any organization in Pittsburgh that was interested. It was clear that at least for a couple of months, nobody knew it was going to be a year plus, or now more than a year and a half. They would have to do something online, so they made it available for all those organizations free of charge. I think by the end of the show must go online, we had about 19 partners here in Pittsburgh, and we presented 80 programs from May 4th into September of 2020 or so. So when the pilot program ended, we continued presenting online programs from September of 2020 on under our online streaming channel. It's called City of Asylum at Home. And since May 4th of 2020, we have presented more than 250 programs, and we have had an audience of more than 35,000 people from all over the world. So we still have a very strong local connection, and the majority of our audience comes from the Pittsburgh region, Allegheny County and the surrounding counties. But now we have viewers in every single state. All 50 states are represented, and more than 65 countries worldwide. So presenting programs online had many advantages. One of them, of course, is the geographic reach. The other one is, if you think about it, people with health issues that cannot come here because of mobility issues, because they don't want to leave home. So it's really allowed many people to have access to our programs. But I think the most important thing is that it allowed us to continue advancing our mission throughout the pandemic. And I have to tell you, we do surveys regularly. And reading some of the comments on the surveys, it's been really reassuring. Many people say that was the only bright spot in their otherwise very grim lives, or that was like the self-care moment for them was to tune into one of the programs. And the platform we use has a chat function, so we were surprised. We didn't know what was going to happen. Then the chat became this conversation. Everyone is sharing comments, reacting to what's going on in the program, asking questions. So we have been incorporating a Q&A session at the end of programs because people were asking questions, sharing links, sharing resources. So yes, it's been just a bright spot in an otherwise dark period is to have been able to continue presenting these programs. During the show must go online, I should add, we had a donate button under the screen, under the video, and those donations went to support each one of the partner organizations, not directly City of Asylum. So it was also a way for those organizations to remain in touch with their audiences, but also to have some financial support through that platform. And it was good that we were able to do it so quickly because, of course, it was a major shift for many organizations. Eventually, some of them learned how to do it and then have been presenting in their own platforms. Many of them are still presenting with us. But you mentioned in person. So starting in June of 2021, we set up a tent that used to be the place where City of Asylum programs used to happen before we had the Alphabet City be our headquarters. So in this tent, we have 3 sides up, so there's a much better airflow. And we did it because it would give us some flexibility. We were planning this in February, January of this year, even December. What we're going to do, this is before we knew that vaccination would be in, November of last year, before we knew vaccination would be ready and widely available. So the tent allowed us to have some flexibility. We are still streaming events from the tent. So we put all the cameras, lighting, microphones, high-speed internet, everything that is needed. And then it allows us to bring in-person audiences and change and adjust depending on public health conditions. So when we started doing it, it was unclear. Then in June, it seemed like everything was going much better. So we were able to allow more people. Now, again, we are seeing some spikes in cases, and we can adjust. Almost in real time, we can say, well, we can only have 50 people or 20 people, 10 people, or no one, and we will stream. So that tent really gave us that flexibility, and the tent will most likely stay up throughout September. and early October, late October starts becoming dicey because of the weather. You will have to have put the sides down to keep it warm, and then the idea is to have them up because of airflow. But yes, so that's the plan. And then if we can go back to in-person programming at Alphabet City safely, we will do that as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. With the great content that you just talked about, I mean, I can't imagine how expensive it is to attend a program with City of Asylum. How much does it cost for someone to be able to tune in to watch a program or to come to a live program at City of Asylum or at the Alphabet City?
No, it does not. So that is part of our mission. All our programs, all of them, are free. We
Mm.
do not charge the audience to come to our programs in person. We do not charge the audience to come to our programs online. We do pay the artists, so they are not free for us. We still have to raise the money to pay the artists and the staff and all that. But the audience does not pay a ticket. There's no admission cost to any of our programs, and that is part of our mission. When these exiled writers, which are really the core of City of Asylum, when Wang Zhang came in 2004, and when we saw how he changed the community,
Mm.
and we realized that as much as the writer gains by coming to City of Asylum and having a safe place to live and continue creating, it is us, the community, the ones who gain the most.
Mm.
And one of the reasons is because people started asking questions. Like there was, somebody in Wang Zhang visited the school, and then somebody asked a question like, "What does it feel to be in jail when you did not do anything wrong?"
Mm.
So even children start questioning and having these conversations about justice and about freedom of expression and about injustice. And we realize that even though here in the United States we don't have the circumstances that these writers have at home, where they are persecuted because of their writing and they have to leave the countries, there are ways in which we are also impeding creative free expression, and one of them is by not having access to the arts. Like it doesn't matter if you can say whatever you want to say, if you don't have a platform to say it and you don't have an audience to hear it. I mean, it's not as dire as having the government persecute you, but it is an obstacle. So by having free programs, it allows anyone to come to these programs, and we proactively also provide City of Asylum as a platform for experimental artists and for artists that have been historically marginalized to be our to present their programs, their art, their work at City of Asylum. So all the programs are free because that supports, that's a very important part of our mission, is to celebrate creative free expression, to protect creative free expression, and to make sure that the population at large has access to the arts.
Could you share, like, in terms of the link or the website where people could learn about the programs, where people could register and see what's coming up?
Yes. So for the programs, you may visit alphabetcity.org. That's where all of our events and programs are posted, and then there is information about how to attend events in person, and then how to watch them online. You can reserve your free tickets for either one of those by visiting alphabetcity.org. There's also a calendar for August, and then there's going to be one for September, so you can see what is coming up. And then to learn more about City of Asylum and the Writer in Residence program and everything that we have done at City of Asylum, you can go to cityofasylum.org. So two different websites, alphabetcity.org for programs and cityofasylum.org for the Sanctuary program.
Thanks, Andres. And maybe you do a better job of doing this. So City of Asylum is the organization. Alphabet City is the location.
Yes, and we have additional locations. So City of Asylum, yes, is the organization, and then we have Alphabet City, which is a building here in the north side. It used to be a Masonic hall and is now a building with apartments in the top floors. And then in the first floor, we have a restaurant, an event space where we present our programs, and a bookstore. Then in the basement, we have the offices. That's where I am right now. We also have the Alphabet Reading Garden, which is a public garden located here in the north side as well. We have we have four house publications. I already showed you one of them. So these are houses where the writers in residence live or have lived, and then four of them have public art on their facades, and each one of them has a connection to a writer or artist. The one I showed you was Wang Zhang, the first writer in residence, painted his poetry on the facade. The second one is based on Wole Soyinka's text. Wole Soyinka is the first Nobel Prize winner from Africa. He's from Nigeria, and he was held in solitary confinement for a long period of time. So he had to he wrote many texts about it, and one of them is used in this house publication. It has artwork by Thad Mosley, so it has beautiful wooden sculptures on the facade. There's another one called the Burma House that has Burmese poems in the facade, and then the fourth one that we have finished is called the Jazz House, and it's based on visual art by Oliver Lake, the saxophonist I mentioned. There's a fifth one coming up sometime soon, and they're all located on Samsonia Way. So that's another location. And then, yes, Alphabet City is where I am right now.
With you talking, I want you to talk a little bit more about the series that you're doing now, right? Coffee with Andres. If you could tell the folks a little bit more about it as well.
So I am from Colombia, South America. So we know coffee is very good in Colombia. So it's been really, I mean, coffee has been a very important vehicle, or coffee houses have been a very important place for the free exchange of ideas. So I'm combining those two things: my love for coffee, for making coffee, for having conversations over coffee, and connecting with this tradition of coffee as coffee places being a haven for communication and exchange of ideas. So I am having coffee with different people. We have had two episodes so far. If you search alphabetcity.org Coffee with Andres, you will find those episodes. This is something that I should add about our streaming, is that most of the programs we present on our streaming channel are available on demand. There are only a few exceptions, like films, because of copyright issues. But most of the programs we present remain available on demand, so you can actually go back and watch, if not 250 programs, probably over 200 programs that we have presented, including Coffee with Andres. So yes, I would like to invite all of you who are watching this series, this episode, to go check it out, because I do have a lot of fun creating, thinking, and filming Coffee with Andres, and I hope anyone who watches them gets the same experience.
City of Asylum, is there any other City of Asylum in different places? Because people that might be watching and might want to go to a physical location. Do you have any other locations where City of Asylum exists outside of Pittsburgh? And I really want you, Andres, to really paint the picture of what a big deal it is to have City of Asylum here in Pittsburgh, right? Because it's the largest of its kind in the world, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a very good connection between the two questions. So the first one is, City of Asylum is part of a larger network. It's called ICORN, the International Cities of Refuge Network, which is located in Norway. And this is a network of more than 70 cities around the world, that's 70, that have made a commitment to protect freedom of expression. And they do welcome writers. They do provide housing for writers who are persecuted at home. And of those 70 cities, we are the only one that is grassroots supported. And I also want to clarify, we are not supported by ICORN. It's not like we receive funding from them. This is just a network of peer cities. And each city has different funding mechanisms. Most of the cities in Europe receive funding from the municipalities, and many cities in Europe, and I think mostly in the United States, receive funding from universities. So they have partnerships. They're housed within universities. We are an independent 501c3 organization. We are an independent nonprofit organization, and the only one that is grassroots supported, that has no official affiliation with a university or a municipality, and we receive no funding from any university in particular. So we do fundraise independently, and we are currently the largest sanctuary in the world. Most Icon cities have only one writer at a time. Some of them have two. We have up to 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 writers and artists in residence in our houses. So we are really larger than most other cities by 2 or 3 times larger. Something that makes City of Asylum different, City of Asylum Pittsburgh different, is that most other cities provide a very specific time frame. So you get a residency for, let's say, 2 years, and then when the 2 years are up, you have to find another place to live. We do commit to the long-term outcome, so we do provide 2 years of a living stipend, free housing, health insurance, legal help, support, of course, community. When the writers come here, the community, as you can see the picture behind me, they really embrace the writers and artists. But after the 2 years, at the beginning of the 2 years, we start thinking how we can help them to become independent long term. If they are able to go back to their country of origin because the threat has subsided, then they can. If they cannot, then we start trying to find ways for them to become independent and continue writing. So that is something that also sets us apart, is that we do help the writers beyond the 2-year official residency here at City of Asylum. And in the United States, there are a couple of locations that have been inspired by what we have been doing. So Detroit just opened a City of Asylum that is modeled after the Pittsburgh model, and is somebody from Pittsburgh who was familiar with City of Asylum Pittsburgh and inspired by what we were doing, and she lives in Detroit. And then we were in conversation, and we helped them understand what the needs were. They opened one this year, and then they are about to welcome their first writer in residence.
Wow.
And we are in talks with other cities as well to create organizations that are similar to City of Asylum Pittsburgh.
That is incredible. So for people watching, we really have a gem of an organization here in Pittsburgh. And what's great is if you're not in Pittsburgh, you still have the opportunity to really tune into awesome programs for free, right? Even though it is for free, like Andres mentioned before, there is a donate button. So please, even if it's supporting by $1, as much as you can, it's going towards a great cause, as you've heard. So Andres, before we let you go, is there any last thing you want to say to folks before we say ciao?
No, Faye, I just wanted to thank you for the invitation to be part of this series, and also just to really reinforce this idea that City of Asylum Pittsburgh is a very special organization. It's not because I am now the executive director of City of Asylum. I changed my career. I went from being a conductor to being an executive director because I am really committed to the mission. It really moved me, and continues to move me as a foreign-born artist in Pittsburgh, and also as somebody who defends freedom of expression, and freedom of expression by artists is something very important. But I have to tell you, there's nothing like City of Asylum anywhere in the world. It's really a very special organization, and I think it puts Pittsburgh on the map. People, when they hear City of Asylum Pittsburgh, they know that this has been deemed the model for the world by the head of ICORN. So it is a very special organization that you Pittsburghers have supported here in our city. One of the reasons what I wanted to work at City of Asylum is because I wanted to spend more time in Pittsburgh and be able to have a larger impact on the community here in our city. So if you are familiar with the organization, please come back. We would love to see you again. If you're not familiar, do go to a website and learn more about both our sanctuary program and all of the different house publications, Alpha Green Garden, this beautiful building we are in right now. But also you can attend any of the programs that we present, and you can go back to May 4, 2020 and watch more than 200 programs that we have available on demand. Or if you want to come to attend programs are probably going to still be around for a while. So, just go to our website and see if you can attend in person or online. And thank you so much, Faye, for the invitation.
Of course, anytime, Andres. So thank you so much. And guys, I would catch you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.